Журнал «Хулиган» и «Хулиган-ТВ» представляют.
But what happened is when we started expanding around the world, we got angry and we saw what was happening in the environment, and we saw what's happening in Darfur, in North Korea, in Africa, and well, everywhere really, and with the environment, etc., etc. So we got a little bit more serious, and especially the political climate in America was such that, I mean, it's totally insane. Half the country is ignored. Now, I'm sure the people in Kansas think they're being ignored too. So we became political only because it's a lot like Russia under the Soviet Union. If you go to America during the war, the Gulf War, everyone was waving the flag. You couldn't say anything bad about George Bush. You couldn't say anything bad about the government. And so we said, what the fuck is going on here? Yeah, I mean, we started when every magazine looked like every other magazine. So every magazine in every country you went to was like Versace, Gucci, or they wanted to be Versace and Gucci. So they have, you know, a yacht, and they have a big house, and then they have a photo shoot with the models, and then and it's all like the lifestyles of the rich and famous. And we're like, I don't give a shit about that. You know, we wanted to talk about, you know, people's, Gigi Allen, killing himself on stage, or we wanted to talk about punk music, or we wanted to talk about, weird fashion designers, or we wanted to talk about fucking, or we wanted to talk about crazy stories that we heard. So I think that's how it first started, and we started as a bunch of punks in Montreal. Then when we went to New York, it became more about, there was a resurgence of New York, like bands coming up, so the Rapture, the Strokes, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and we were all with them together. Japan is the craziest country in the world for youth culture. They're just crazy, full stop. But if they're like a Rasta, they'll have perfect dreadlocks, and they'll have like the shoes that Bob Marley died in, the exact outfit. If they're like a punk, they have this chain that Sid Vicious had, the exact jacket, the exact spikes, exactly. Like, they're so crazy about subculture, it's nuts. They study it like a religion. Well, North Korea was crazy. I grew up during the Cold War when I was a kid, so we didn't know anything about Russia. So it'd be like, commies eat babies, or like, you can buy a house for a pair of blue jeans, and nobody knew anything, because it was like you weren't allowed to know anything, like no information was coming out. Yeah. So I was always fascinated by it, and then I remember I moved to Eastern Europe in 1991, 92, right when it opened up, and I was like, this isn't that much different than the West, and so I was a bit disappointed. But when you went to North Korea, it's what you can imagine Maoist China or Stalinist Russia to be, because everything is for the state, and Kim Jong-il is a god, and Kim Il-sung is a god, and their picture is everywhere, and it's cult of personality, socialist utopia, parades, flags, crying, I love the leader, and you're like, what the fuck, it's crazy. But I'm glad that I went there, because once it goes, there won't be any more states like that. America will never say the war is about oil, because we consume the most oil. They won't say we went to Iraq because we want oil. They have to say it's because of 9/11. It had nothing to do with 9/11. Al-Qaeda hates Iraq because they were a secular regime. So you sit there and say it's all about oil, but no one can say it's about oil. What's astonishing is that even NBC or ABC or whatever, they won't say it's about oil. Mainstream media, the Republicans in America talk about the liberal media, There's no such thing as liberal media. There's 4 companies that own all the media, and they all are, multi-billion-dollar corporations. They're inherently conservative, and they're afraid of losing Budweiser as an advertiser. Yeah. So they say whatever the fuck you want them to say, and there's no difference between American media today and like TASS and Pravda under the Soviet Union. It's the exact same thing. When we went to Bulgaria, when you can buy a warhead on the black market, a nuclear warhead on the black market, it's over. Society's over, culture's over, because it's just a matter of time before someone comes to Moscow and irradiates it, or New York. Whenever you have a destratification of power, you're going to have young people come up and say, okay, we want it now, we want to take it. All the old people are there, gray hair, and they're getting paid $500,000 a year, $1 million a year to make one film a year or one TV show a year. We make 30 TV shows a year, and we do it for no money. So I think that definitely what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot more use of the internet because it's free. There's going to be a lot more young people coming and starting their own things. If you're laughing at me because my hair is yeah, so I think that the crisis is actually going to be great. After 9/11 in New York never saw a party like that. For 2 years, just coke and fucking and drinking and party. Because everyone's like, oh, we're dead. The Arabs are going to kill us, so let's go nuts. For example, we're here in Russia, and we got very, very drunk last night. I nearly got killed by the mafia. And so you sit there and you film it, and it's totally insane. We don't take ourselves as seriously as some people, but because of that, people approach you in a different way. They talk to you in a different way. Maybe they're a bit more honest with you and stuff. So I think personally it's very important. You know, Napoleon said, conquest has made me and conquest must sustain me. Well, I say drinking has made me, so drinking must sustain me. We have a different Jesus. We have a different Jesus every week. Jesus is in a snake. Yeah. Jesus is in Elvis.
Mostly though.
George Bush. Don't forget. Oh, no, he speaks to George Bush.